Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well today. As always, if you found this video useful, please do like and subscribe or write a comment below. I'm always interested to know people's thoughts. I do have a lot of travel videos as well. You might want to see the one I did recently on Poland and some other offers money saving tips. So do have a look at my Facebook page. I'll put all of the links in the description. So this video is about a program that's called Angloville. If you don't know, you can see the website. But to summarize, it's a program where you have learners of English, and normally they're all from a certain country. For example, if you do a program in Poland, then you'll be helping Polish people learn English, and they do adult and child programs. And so it's an immersion program. So you'll be speaking English and helping them create an English environment pretty much all day for a period of normally 5 days, I believe. Some programs might be a bit shorter or longer than that. So it's to encourage them to use English and not their native language or any other language that they might know. So generally, these programs, you meet in a city and then travel together to the hotel or wherever it is. Normally, it's a hotel that you'll be staying at. And often this place is in a rural area. So my tip if you are going to do a program with Angloville is to bring enough medicine, toiletries, anything that you might need, or buy it in the main city that you meet at first before you go to the destination, because the destinations are often rural and there might not be any shops in that area. And it might also be hard to get anything delivered there. So it's best to be prepared with if there's like a specific food or anything that you're not able to live without, chargers, adapters. Um, as you probably know, our plugs in Britain are different, or the US are different to those in mainland Europe. So you'll most likely need an adapter. So just be prepared in that sense. So my honest opinion is, first of all, people often ask, is it just a thing for extroverts? Because you are needing to be sociable and open to conversation for a pretty long period of the day. It doesn't really stop from when you get up to maybe the evening or when you go to sleep, depending on whether the students want to socialize with you in the evening. Some do, some don't. It's just, I guess it would depend. And the answer I would say actually no is not. As long as you're prepared and you know what you're getting into before you go, I would say no. There is free time built in the day, so often the sessions are one-on-one, but there are some sessions where it's say two learners and one native speaker. So in those sessions, obviously they won't need all of the natives. So that's when some people will have free time. And then it'll change. So you might have a session when other natives have free time. And also the sessions do have 10-minute breaks built in. There's always a 10-minute break at the end of a session. And you are encouraged to take this break. Also after lunch, I believe there was a break, and lunch was 1 hour also. So there were times for breaks, relaxing, doing your own thing. If the hotel has a gym or spa, you normally are allowed to use that. Or you could just go to your room, browse the internet, and watch TV, whatever it is that you're into. So I would say actually no is not really just for extroverts, but it is quite intense. So that is something that you have to bear in mind. You'll be in a rural destination with always the same people each day. But the programs are mostly only 5 days. So even though you are pretty tired at the end, it does feel like it's worth it at the end. So in terms of food, another question that people ask is, oh, what's the food like? And I would say it's pretty standard, like hotel food, buffets, that sort of thing. Or said meals. If you do have a requirement like vegan, vegetarian, you do need to tell them, I think, before. I'm not sure how much notice you need to give because I don't eat any of these diets, but that is something I know you do have to tell them in advance. but they are able to give you a different meal. For example, if it's vegetarian or if it's a buffet, there'll be vegetarian options. And obviously, there's nothing stopping you bringing your own food. The rooms had a fridge, or if there is a shop in the area, but there might not be. So it's just something to bear in mind. And often they did have snacks. Oh, no, I know they did at least have drinks that were available like throughout the day. So juices, water, hot drinks as well, which in winter is really good. And it was all just available when you wanted it, and it was free. So you're never really hungry or thirsty at these things. They do try and go out of their way to make sure that everyone does at least have something to eat that meets their requirements. Like if you have an allergy also, you do have to let them know in advance of this, or if you're really worried, maybe bring some of your own snacks. I think most hotels did have a fridge or somewhere to store if you needed to do that as well. And they did have laundry facilities, although you do need to pay for that. Some extra facilities at the hotel will be paid, like I think the spa. Some of them you do have to pay for that. But in terms of other things, it's pretty much a standard hotel. So like you get the room cleaned every day, and some toiletry is also for free. Some like sewing kits, and the rooms also had a safe. I would recommend you do bring a padlock for your things just in case it doesn't. And do like the basic measures, so taking a photocopy of your passport just in case you ever lost it. And be prepared for all types of weather. So Central Europe is often has a lot more snow than we do in the south of England. So do be prepared for that. Often that doesn't affect any programmed activities. Like I had my first day in Poland, it was completely covered in snow. And I thought maybe, oh, they won't do the tour today, but everything was running as normal, like the buses were still running. People just seemed to get on with their day, even though it was below 0 degrees Celsius outside. So do be prepared. Just although most hotels in Poland do have AC, which is also a heater, and a heated towel rail as well. So when you're in the room, you'll never really be cold or hot or anything. Most hotels do just have that as standard in Poland. And obviously the shower has hot water also. So you're you never really when you're in the room. It's just when you go outside, you do have to wrap up well, and probably more than you would if you're at home. The other thing were things you need to budget for. So normally you do need to pay a deposit with Angloville, but you get that back about 3 weeks after the end. And then there is, if you're flying to the main city and you're staying there for 1 or 2 nights before the program, you would at least need to stay there 1 night before the program because the bus leaves in the morning on the day of the program. And I wouldn't recommend that you get a flight on the day because if your flight's delayed, you'll be delayed for the program and have to make your own way to the venue, which would be at your own expense. So I wouldn't suggest that. So that hotel for the 1 or 2 nights before you would need to pay, and also at the end. I wouldn't suggest booking a flight for the last day because if the bus is delayed getting back to the main city, remember you've still got to pay for the transfer as well, getting to or from the airport, and that's another expense also on the way there. And your meals in those times also you would need to budget for, but depending where you do your program, like for example, Eastern Europe is a pretty affordable place to live, especially if your hotel has breakfast for free. You only need to buy 2 meals then. So, but it is still something that you do need to take into account to budget for your trip there. So I wouldn't recommend booking a flight for the last day. It's always nicer to see more of the country in your free time as well if you're there anyway. So you would need a hotel for at least 1 night then. What I did was stayed in a hotel near the airport. So Warsaw actually has 2 airports. If you go to Modlin, that's where the Ryanair flights go. I actually wouldn't suggest that I know some people on my program did. But the reason I wouldn't suggest that is it just adds another expense when you're transferring from the city. And it's quite a bit further than Chopin. So Chopin, named after the famous piano player. That's the main one in Warsaw, and it only, I think, took around 20 minutes, and that was in rush hour traffic. So, and it is on public transport. I believe I got the tram or a bus on, yeah, I think I got a tram and a bus on the way back because I knew what I was doing a bit more then. So, yeah, public transport also was pretty cheap, but any sort of trip sightseeing, you'll need to budget that into account. But even if you got a taxi from Chopin, it was because it's so near, it's quite inexpensive to do. So that's why I'd recommend Chopin. And there are still low-cost airlines like Wizz Air that do fly there. So I would suggest that for the just to avoid the extra time and expense it would take to get to Modlin. So if possible, try and find an airport that's a bit nearer to the city. It just saves a lot of hassle, especially if you've already had quite a long way traveling from your home country, especially if you live in the US or Australia, for example. You don't really want to have a long journey after you've already had a long journey, right? So you always underestimate when you fly the time it takes traveling to your own airport in your hometown, um, possibly changing flights, doing all of the security, all of those things. It's a lot. It adds a lot more time. You spend more time doing those things than the actual flight quite often. So you do underestimate the amount of tiredness it causes you. So those are my tips. I would suggest staying like 2, 3 nights, maybe either side, to just for time to relax because at the end you are quite tired, and also you may as well take advantage and see the place that you're in. Because when you're doing the program, although the hotel might be in a great location, you don't really get to explore the city so much, and you're mostly helping the students with their language learning. So it's just always nice to have a bit of free time as well, especially if you're in Eastern Europe where things are quite affordable. Things like hotels, taxis, food are a lot less than they would be in a major city like London or New York, for example. So those are my tips for Angloville, just to be prepared. And are there any disadvantages to the program? I would say, apart from the things I already mentioned, not particularly. But I know if you do have a specific dietary requirements, like wanting a halal diet, for example, it might be a bit harder, depending on where you are to find those things. And I can't really think of any other disadvantages or things that I didn't like. Actually, I really enjoyed the program. So, um, I know that there are child programs as well, so you're helping children with their English, and that will take a bit more time to apply for because obviously they need to check your police check, and I think you need a reference letter as well for those programs. Oh, another expense is travel insurance. You do need to have travel insurance for the program, and they ask to see proof of that. But I think you can buy any basic policy. It doesn't need to be like a gold or platinum one or anything, just a basic one to cover the destination and any other places you might travel to or transit through. That would be perfectly sufficient. And make sure your passport is in date if you're British, American, or Australian. I believe you need to have more time left on your passport than you would if you're Irish, or if you're lucky enough to have another European passport. Then it just needs to be valid for the date of your stay. Obviously, I wouldn't suggest leaving it till the right day that you leave, because then if there was a problem or you decided to stay longer, your passport would go out of date, or your ID if you're using an EU ID. So I wouldn't suggest that, but there isn't actually a requirement to have more. I believe British and US third places need to have at least 3 or 6 months left of validity. So do check that and check for any delays processing. I know to get a new British passport, it takes quite a while these days. Other places may be different. I know Irish passports are being issued pretty fast, as long as it's not your first time, you're just renewing it. So those are also things to check because there's no point booking a flight and paying the deposit if you actually then find your passport has run out. So those are just things to be aware of with Angloville. And the positive things where you do get quite a sense of achievement when you finish, is like you made it through the program. And the students are generally really appreciative as well. Like they want to talk to you to improve their English. They are quite happy, especially if you're open to learning things about them. They're quite interested in learning things about you and where you're from, what you do when you're at home, that sort of thing. They're always quite friendly. I know the child programs are a bit more intense because obviously you're not going to have the same sort of dynamic when it's adult and child as you are with another adult. So that's something to bear in mind. Maybe if you haven't worked with children before, you're not a teacher, then it's something just to bear in mind about whether you would prefer or find slightly easier to do an adult program. So I really hope you enjoyed this. As I said, please do like and subscribe. It really helps me out if you find these tips these tips useful, sorry. I have a whole new travel playlist, so do have a look at that. I think it's quite bingeable. You could just watch it in the background while you're doing something else. And if you do have any other questions, do feel free to send me a message or drop something in the chat. Through my Facebook page, you're able to send me a message on WhatsApp also. So I hope that's helped some of you out who were thinking of doing Angloville or a similar program. And I hope to see you back on my channel soon. I'll be back soon with another video. But that's all for today. Hope you have a nice morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you are. And I'll see you again soon.